The previous administrator, he was always out, visible, shaking hands, kissing babies kind of principal. The people, they loved him because he was always out and kind of, doing his thing.
This is Daniel, and he's a principal at a high school in the Midwestern United States.
In my previous position, I had a smaller school. I was also very visible, whereas now I feel like I'm not as visible as I want to be.
For the next 2 months, Daniel will be working with Chip Youth, a senior consultant at the Arbinger Institute.
So that's been a struggle for me because sometimes people get the perception when you're not visible that you're not doing anything, but I'm doing the work that has to be done versus the stuff that I'll probably much rather enjoy doing.
Together, Daniel and Chip are going to dive into some areas of Daniel's leadership that, if unlocked, could fundamentally transform how Daniel leads and, in turn, how impactful his team can be in shaping the lives of children. This is Leading Outward, a podcast from the Arbinger Institute where we explore what it really means to live and lead with an outward mindset, seeing people as people. I'm Victoria Trammell, a senior consultant here at Arbinger. These episodes are an opportunity for you to understand the process of what instituting change looks like. Sometimes it's easy, and sometimes, well, it's less easy. Chip will be joining me to unpack some of the lessons and ideas that emerge throughout their sessions.
How long have you been there? When did you take over as principal at the school?
I took over in this position 4 years ago. When I got here, there was nothing in writing. No plans, no budgets, nothing, I wasn't even at ground level yet. There's so many things and systems and written documentations. We just didn't have anything. So I'm finding it hard with the brand new leadership teams having to just train individuals. The kids that are coming through don't have another year to wait. This is their only year, their only senior year, their only freshman year. So while we're getting our stuff together, they're not getting the best quality. And I don't like that. I have expectations for my quality. I have expectations for the administration quality. I have expectations for the teacher quality. Even my own son, who's a junior in this building, I don't want him to have to experience bad teaching or anybody's kid. And so I know every year that we're not there yet, that's another cohort of students that haven't experienced high quality. A lot of people that are here that are new, they don't have anything to go off of. And so without me being there, I don't want them to establish something that might not align with the way I'm taking things. But I only have so many hours in a day, I jokingly tell people like I'm an undiagnosed control freak. So
What do you mean by that, undiagnosed control freak? Tell me more about that.
it's just I know I have the unique advantage of all of my assistant principals, the body of work that they're doing, I've done a version of it directly. Like I used to be a dean, I was a teacher, I was an assistant principal who oversaw a bunch of different areas that these particular assistant principals are overseeing. So I know what it will take in order for that to be of high quality. I find that it's taken a lot of time just to get it established the way I envision it to be. There's a certain way that it should be done. And I don't know if it's just a matter of like I'm trying to be too controlling over certain things and just allow it to happen, or if it's just the nature of the beast.
Why would you ask that question?
Because it hasn't gotten to that point where I want it to be yet. Because I get feedback from I have a staff culture team that I meet with twice a month, and they'll give me feedback just on what are the staff saying, what are you hearing, what are you seeing out there, and that's some of the feedback is that when people don't see me, they think I'm not even here, but I'm over there doing a lot of work, And if people don't feel as though you get it because you're not in the trenches per se, then there could be the tendency of pushback.
So you asked the question, am I being too controlling? I see some dissonance between being too controlling, which applies hands-on, and then not in the trenches, which implies more hands-off. I'm trying to reconcile those two things. How can those things both be true?
Yeah, because there might be some things that if I haven't given it my direct attention yet, it might be stalled, where people may be waiting for me to firmly establish that that is the way we're going to do that thing. So they may just be running off of old practices, but I have neither confirmed nor denied that that's the way that it needs to move. But as far as just actually getting in the trenches with them, walking side by side with them to see the work, do that in a more thorough fashion, just there's some areas I just haven't gotten to yet. And so they're probably just doing it off of old habits.
What would that be like if somebody came and told me, hey, I'm an undiagnosed control freak? Like, I was just thinking about that whether it be a peer or a leader or something like that, I was thinking, like, what must that be like? And what would that invite in others in terms of a response? Because I don't know if I've ever had anybody tell me that.
Yeah.
I've been thinking about it.
It depends on the level of sincerity. Like when Daniel says that to me, and you can even tell when we're talking about it, right? He's a bit hesitant to reveal that. But as he does, it feels very authentic and sincere because in the context of our conversation, what he's here for is help. But I could say that to somebody as a way of just getting out in front of some things that are to come in terms of how I'm going to approach you as a leader. It almost gives me a pass if I disclose it. If I say, hey, Vic, you should know I'm an undiagnosed control freak. Ergo, anything I do
Right.
that has the appearance of me seeking to control or manipulate is I'm off the hook for, right? Because I've already disclosed it. So with me, I think when Daniel's sharing that with me, I feel like he's basically saying, I'm recognizing this as a challenge that I would like to contend with, and I would like your help. But if I'm saying that to you, just to get your permission, your buy-in, your acquiescence to the way I'm getting ready to do things, I think that's a wholly different thing, right? I'm coming out with a wholly different attitude. So is it safe to say that in order for them to do the things they need to be doing, they need your okay? They need you to sign off on that method?
Yeah, in some aspects, yes. And for the most part, I try to empower them to just make decisions, do what they have to do.
Tell me more about that.
When I find people that are having these challenges and they're talking to me about it, first thing that comes to my mind is just like, I trained you on this already, you know. Part of it is I've been getting some feedback that part of it is that they don't see it being modeled enough. If people don't see me modeling certain things that I'm asking them to do, then they're more likely to either forget it or just think it was just another thing that we did or we got trained on, but it didn't really mean anything. So right now it's just more theoretical.
The thing I think is so interesting, though, is he wants something done a certain way so that he ensures a level of quality is delivered to the students. Noble cause, noble effort, right? That's what we would want. We would want a high level of quality and a defined way to go about it. And I know that this is what we need to do in order to make it happen. What's that tension between relinquishing some of that control, but ensuring, outstanding quality? Like how that's a tough kind of balance to achieve between empowering others and perhaps sacrificing quality versus maintaining that control and ensuring quality.
We don't control as much as we think we do. And for me, it takes radical self-awareness to just relinquish this idea that I'm in control. I think about myself more as orchestrating this process and giving people what they need in terms of support and training and equipment and resources and guidance. Ultimately, what I'm doing is empowering them to bring their best selves to bear on this particular problem.
I don't think he is by any stretch of the imagination alone in this challenge. There's this kind of perceived state of flux that everything is in. And so the natural tendency is we've got to get it under control in order to be effective. But what does that under control really need to look like? And what is a leader's role in that process?
I think about like surfing, right? Like you're not controlling the waves. You have no control over what those waves are going to do. I think that's almost equivalent to a leader in a metaphorical sense. That surfer doesn't really know how that evolution of surfing is going to go until they know what the waves are going to do, and they've got to be able to respond to them.
And if I fight those forces because I'm so focused on keeping my straight line, it's entirely possible that it's going to knock me off altogether because I'm starting to get hung up on the minutia and the ordering of my steps versus making sure that we are all going to where we need to go destination-wise.
And you're actually leveraging your skill out there on the board to respond in a way that allows you to stay upright and to work within the context of those waves to achieve your goal. And I think about leadership a lot like that, right? There's so much chaos, necessary chaos, by the way. If you have too much order, it becomes tyrannical and it just stifles creativity. You have to have some chaos. Of course, too much chaos is untenable and you're not able to get anything done. So it's a constant balance that you have to have between the order and the chaos. I just think that it's delusional to think that I'm going to jump into an environment like this with a team full of people with all kinds of ideas and opinions and agency and, preferences. And I'm going to be able to like strictly bound what they're going to think, what they're going to do, how they're going to perform, or especially how they're going to see themselves in relation to what we're trying to accomplish. Would you characterize yourself as a process guy?
Yeah.
I'm asking that question just because I'm wondering what the implications of that are on this challenge you're having with having people adopt this clearly viable knowledge that you've imparted to them. What are your thoughts?
It seems so simple to me, right? Like A plus B equals C, that kind of thing. I've had the experience of doing this work on a smaller scale where I had one building, 50 staff members. And so I was out and visible, can do it all simultaneously because there weren't that many demands. And it was just myself, one additional administrator. Whereas now I have 6 administrators that report directly to me. They each oversee a specific area. But there's a certain way that I want it to be led. I have a plan, let me work the plan, and just trust the process. But it's a constant fight. But I realize I can't control much of that. So I fight those battles when I can.
I find your language so interesting. You're in education and you're a very logical thinker, but you say things like fight battles, keep pushing,
Yeah.
overcome resistance. What do you make of that?
We're in a war now. Having that mindset of like things are a fight, it feels like that at times. When it's like we know the right thing to do, let's just do it. And when people aren't, it seems like it's a fight. We are in a life-changing business, and unfortunately it comes with that. We're working with people and we have other people's children in our control and our care throughout the day. And the work that we do here is life or death, the way I look at it.
So if we're at war, who's the enemy?
Mm. The bureaucracy.
You are the bureaucracy, Daniel. You're an administrator.
I, I try not to put myself in those categories, but that's an interesting question.
I think back to when I was a program manager. So often I'd be like, well, that was a corporate decision, guys, because I'm with you, right? I'm with you, team. That wasn't my call. And so it allows me to dissociate from negatively, I'll put that in air quotes, negatively impactful decisions, right? Because that was a corporate call. But now, not mine, that was a corporate call. But on the flip side, when something went well, I would go, well, we have done this for you, team.
Yeah.
Here's the
Yeah.
red carpet for my parade because I'm such a great leader. Come on down because we have done these wonderful things for you.
Yeah.
We have provided all of these benefits for you. And I would play that position like a drum. But it was whatever I needed in that moment to ensure that I was viewed as the people's leader. Because that's what I viewed myself as, right? That was the type of leader that I considered myself to be. And so whatever position I needed to take, corporate could be the big bad enemy,
Yeah.
or I could be a part of corporate just so long as it reinforced that image that I had. That's what I needed.
That's beautiful. The moose out front should have told you we don't pay extra for undermining. Like, you take the promotion, but then you're gonna like throw the company under the bus. I've done it. I have counseled other people who I've seen doing it, but
But I mean, that's the thing. When he says this, I'm like, man, Daniel, I've been there. Like, you don't want to be a part of the thing that's the problem. You want to be a part of the solution. And so where do you think the solution lies? Well, at this point in time, the solution lies with the people. So let's align to the people and make somebody else enemy number one. Because people are never more united than when they have a common enemy, right? But spoiler alert, you're a part of that which we've just vilified.
You're creating unhelpful distinctions in the organization that invites
Right.
collusion. I mean, that's the point, right? I mean, at the end of the day, no matter what your position is in the bureaucratical hierarchy, we're all gathered together as a team to achieve a common mission. And it's that commonality we need to be focused on. And everybody has a role to play, but we want to make sure that those roles complement each other.
I think the fluctuating identity crisis that I had was probably one of the biggest undermining factors to the progress that my team could make. And so when I think about the idea of a fluctuating identity for Daniel. My question is then, what's been the impact on his team and his ability to make progress? If he is fluctuating between these identities, to what extent is that impacting their ability to be effective?
Hey everyone, McKinley here. You're currently listening to one of our coaching episodes. We also release narrative episodes that explore a single leadership challenge, and we've created these two formats so that you're getting both ideas and a chance to see what incorporating those ideas looks like in practice. We're so glad you're here, and if someone's come to mind while you've been listening, it's probably because what you're hearing could help them solve points of friction in their life. Invite them to learn alongside us by sharing this episode with them.
How do you feel when people do work that doesn't meet up to your standard?
There's grace. I usually own it. Have I provided them with enough feedback and support to do it the way that I need them? And if I didn't, then I'll coaching and support kicks in right away.
How do you have time to do that when you're head down writing policies?
Right. And that's the catch right there.
If you had to choose between the administrative stuff or being out and about and connecting with people stuff, which of those two would you prefer?
I prefer to be out and about, connecting with people.
I'm going to suggest something to you, Daniel. In my mind, you seem like the person who almost always knows what to do. But the things that you know to do aren't being done. They just aren't.
Mhm.
And you find yourself overwhelmed. How do you respond at home when things don't go the way you think they should?
My wife and I were just talking about that. My response has been to take it and do it myself. Yeah, we were having a conversation about just chores around the house and different things, from managing the money to laundry, cooking. Because I was telling her that she doesn't do much. And she's like, well, I used to, but you took it all. And I took it all because it wasn't being done the way that I wanted. So I took it and did it myself. And now she's like, well, you can't fault me. You took it.
How does she feel about that?
She resents it because now she's feeling like basically I'm moving forward without her. We've been talking about that lately because she saw it that way. And up until we started having this conversation, I saw it as that she quit or she was inconsistent with certain things. And so I had to take it. I needed that consistency. And the only way to ensure it was to just do it myself. So ensure I can get the consistency without an attitude. That's the way I explained it to her.
What is it about that consistency that you need? Why do things have to be consistent? Why do things have to be your way?
I think I get that certainty. It puts me at ease. I don't like surprises. And so having that level of consistency and certainty, it just gives me peace, if you will.
Can I make an observation?
Yeah.
You don't seem at peace to me.
Hmm. Yeah, I don't think I am.
What was going through your head? Because I'll tell you, when I was thinking about it, when I was listening to this, I was like, oh, this is uncomfortable. And that long pause, that silence. Why do you think he was rocked so hard by that question?
What we're witnessing here, we're witnessing someone taking a step towards self-honesty. And it's a beautiful thing. But the first time it happens, like the first time you think, where might I be wrong? Like the first time you think that, it's like entering into an alternate reality, I think. I think he's rocked by this because it's this dissonance between what he says he wants. The way he's going about achieving it is getting in the opposite of what he says he wants. And he just never thought about it. In self-deception, we don't often question our certainty. The need for justification supersedes the need for peace. So here's the choices he's given himself. I can invite people to take responsibility and engage and do things in a way that might not be exactly like I should do them and be frustrated, or I can just simply do everything myself because they're not responsible enough to do it and be frustrated.
I mean, it's like he's got binary thinking in place. And so often we find with a self-focused mindset, we get so limited in terms of what possibilities we think exist out there. Whereas when we flip to an others-focused mindset, possibilities occur to us that we never even dreamed of. When I was a program manager, I had a cadre of team leads that reported to me. In my head, when it came to any human resources matter that we were encountering, like any personnel issue, I had two choices. I could either let the team lead deal with it, which in my head was going to be slower, not as thorough. I was going to have to secondarily check all of their work and probably be the go-between for them with our human resources business partner. Or I could just take all of the information and handle it myself. Also, there was a secondary thought in that I knew in handling it myself, it was going to be handled right. It was going to be handled well. And the people who were at the heart of this HR matter would feel better cared for than if their team lead did it. But that wasn't really my only two options. There were so many other possibilities. And so when I got out of my own way and finally started to realize that as a leader, I was actually creating more problems for my team leads than I was solving them, and let them explore what that HR process looked like, we actually ended up having better outcomes because the team leads knew their team members better than I did. They knew how to engage with them, what their needs, objectives, and challenges were, what was going to resonate best with them. And they were able to address those concerns in the context of handling HR issues in a way that I never was. But that didn't even occur to me as a possibility until I started to see that I was creating problems, but also seeing the need that my team leads had to grow and develop in this area.
You hit the nail on the head. I think what I value is not getting it right. And I filter out any information that doesn't justify me. There's all kinds of options out here between poles A and B that just aren't accessible right now to Daniel. And it's not because they don't exist. It's because he's walled off from them. I felt like Daniel was at a point where he could really be introspective here. Like I felt that he was vulnerable enough, especially with the declaration he made, the realization he came to that he's actually not at peace. I felt that this was the time that I could interject a question that would invite him to search more deeply into his motivation. I'm just curious, if you know the right thing to do in your mind is to develop your people and their capacity to take more accountability, to take on more, why are you holding back? Why are you not letting go more when you're making yourself the person that has to okay everything, the person that has to ensure that it's done the way that you know it should be done based on all of your very valuable experience? I'm just curious, like in your mind, what's keeping you from doing the thing that you know is right to be doing?
Good question.
Let me ask you this. What are
Yeah.
you afraid of? What are you afraid of?
I'm the kind of leader that'll insulate my people from the negativity. If it's at the end of the day, if it's under my watch, if it went wrong, I'm going to take it and I'll deal with whatever happened behind closed door. Whether this person does it right or wrong, I'm responsible for. And so I want to make sure it's right as best I can. I always tell people I can delegate a task, but I can never delegate the responsibility. We know we got a lot of lives at stake, and so making sure that basically it's done right. I think really in my mind, it's like I want things to be done the way that I would have done them. But that's probably not realistic. And what's funny, because I always tell people when they're training others, it's like not to make a mini version of you. But then I'm, I'm finding myself almost doing that, right? Which I never thought of myself as that kind of person either, right?
Daniel goes on this journey of being willing to question his reality. And it made me question my own in a lot of ways because I'm going, okay, if Daniel is struggling with this problem, which on the surface seems to be about other people, and as we pull back the layers, it's self-doubt. How many things have I done in the course of my career? How many things am I doing in my current job that are born out of this fear and this self-doubt? right? In what areas am I compensating and expending extra effort in order to mitigate against anybody else perhaps having the perception that I'm not good at my job, or that somebody else would be better at this job, or that I'm not doing the right thing? And how does that then impact my organization? And I'm starting to think back over the course of my career, how many times have I pointed the finger at other people when in fact it's been about me? How many times have I pointed to circumstance, to policy, to whatever big, broader decision out there, when in fact it was about me and the things that I was doing, and that was really what was contributing to the problem? Not to say that those other things weren't factors, but arguably my role in it was paramount in whether these things were going to go right or go wrong. And so when you think about it, I mean, fear is such a sneaky emotion when it comes to leadership because it can manifest in so many different ways. And if you are as good at masking fear as I am, you can make it look highly productive. You can make it look really altruistic. You can make it look really, I mean, there's so many ways that I can put the lipstick on this proverbial pig to make it seem like I am a spectacular leader when really it's all born out of fear. And I'm spending effort on things that actually don't make my organization better, but instead focus on making me look better.
This fear it's a real thing that affects leaders, and it can result in them pulling back from making decisions, being less decisive. It can result in them disappearing during times of crisis. It can result in them locking themselves away in their office working on policies instead of going out and being amongst the people, as it were, like they sense they might do. And I would argue that if this is something Daniel's indeed struggling with, that it would be unreasonable objectively because we actually know that he is capable and competent. The reason change seems painful often is because we focus on changing the things we can see and measure, the things at the behavior level, or we might focus on changing policies or doing a reorg. We might scramble some teams. But the fundamental change that needs to occur in order to avoid a lot of that pain that's excessive and completely avoidable is by making that deeper shift. And it's in the way that we see and regard one another and how we relate in pursuit of the mission. What I'd like you to do before the next time we meet, Daniel, think about what we just talked about today. After you have time to reflect a little bit, I'd like you to think about 2 or 3 people in your organization that you feel comfortable delegating important tasks to. You could give it to them and trust them to run with it. All they need to know is your intent. And then I'd like you to also think about why you trust them to do those things. What characteristics do they possess that make them worthy of your trust?
Join us in the next episode as we continue to unpack what Daniel's learning as he tackles this challenge with CHIP, which we hope helps you tackle whatever's standing in your way of leading most effectively.
The problems I'm complaining about, they're not outside of me. I contribute to those problems.
Leading Outward is produced by the Arbinger Institute, the premier provider of leadership development and organizational transformation. And here's our invitation to you. If you have the courage to participate in our podcast and have your coaching session recorded in order to help others on their leadership journey, contact us at leadingoutward@arbinger.com. If you'd like greater help driving results in your teams and organizations, the Arbinger Institute has been helping clients do just that for over 40 years. To talk to a team member about your specific challenges and how we can help, book a meeting at arbinger.com.